And it began to feel felt a bit confined, and I just thought, I don't want to do this anymore. So I stopped. And I was quite depressed, I think, or anxious, one of the two. Anyway, I stopped and I rested and I thought, what do I really, really want to do? And I thought, I want to do something where I'm outside. I think you've got to have faith that your idea is a good idea. And we just carried on going and carried on doing, putting our heart and soul into it the best that we could. And it worked. My God, it worked. We don't make pots of money, but it's providing something good. It's providing a really lovely working place for my team, and it's a lovely nurturing place for the children. It's a lovely place for the parents because they make friends and they know that their children are having the best possible experience.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Another Avenue podcast. My name is Daisy and I'm the host of this locally based podcast. We're going to be talking about creativity in Southampton and getting under the skin of all the different career paths and ways of being creative, what creativity means, etc. And today, whether you have listened to the podcast before or this is your first time listening, I might be jumping to a very fast-paced relationship because today the guest that I want to introduce you to is someone very close to my heart, literally, because this guest is my mum. So my mum, her name is Kate, and she runs a forest school called Buttercups, and it's based in Bursledon, which is just on the outer edges of Southampton. And a forest school, for people who don't know, is an outdoorsy learning environment, which my mum is going to explain in the episodes. This conversation, you'll hear insights and questions that I've never actually asked my mum before. So you're hearing this for the first time along with me. And we're going to be talking about how we can start thinking about nurturing creativity in children at those very early stages and how we can get back to reconnecting with not just nature in a foresty, outdoorsy sense, but also getting back to what feels natural in this sense of curiosity and a bit of a reframing and how we think about play as part of that creative process. So I hope that you enjoy this episode. If you are listening on Spotify on your phone, you're able to leave a comment or a review that way. It's super quick. It only takes 2 seconds. You don't have to leave any text. And I'd love to hear from you.
You can tell them that I'm your mum.
Well, yeah, because I'll default to calling you mum. We'll be like, sorry, what?
Well,
The forest school and the whole concept of forest schools. If people haven't seen it before, it's giving children tools like saws and
yeah,
maybe not hammers, but
we do give them. No, we do give them. We give them mallets.
yeah.
We haven't done saws for ages actually because we don't have so many people. So when we had like 5, you could have 2 adults doing the sawing and 3 more people. But when you've only got 3, you've got to take 2 adults out of the equation. You've got 1 person watching everybody else. It doesn't really work. But
yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because preschools are kind of when you learn to socialize and to play, but do it in a way that you're conscious of other people and safety and things like that, so you don't take it too far.
Yeah, it's taking other people into consideration, but managing your own risk and the risk of the other people around you.
Yeah.
It's quite important, quite an important skill to learn.
Yeah. So my first question for you is, would you class yourself as creative? Actually, no. Wait. Actually, yeah. Answer.
Well, it's about creativity, your podcast, and I just thought, am I creative? I'm not really sure that I am. And then I thought, oh, well, I suppose I am. I created something that nobody else was doing, and I did it in a different way because I wanted to. It was sort of my own intrinsic motivation that made me do it. And it worked. So I think, yeah, I am creative, and to create an environment that's supporting children to grow and learn and, feel safe and secure. It's a nurturing environment, but you have to create that environment. And so I guess I did, and created this sort of way of learning. I don't even think of it as learning, way of working with children. And the learning's almost incidental. So I've created this environment where they learn through their own intrinsic motivation and interest. So I guess, yeah, I am a bit creative, but I never would have said so.
Can you explain what a forest school is for people who haven't heard of it before? Because it didn't start in the UK.
No, it started in Scandinavia. So a forest school is somewhere where the children, normally what would happen in a forest school, it would be run over weeks. So you might do a 6-week forest school course, and you'd visit the same piece of woodland every week, and you'd follow a program which would introduce sort of safety first of all, and games to do with safety. But the basic principle is spending time out of doors and working with the children, but following their interests rather than decreeing what will happen. So it's following the children's lead, but obviously creating little pockets of interest for them that they might choose to take part in. They might not, but you have to work sort of, what's the word? You have to work with your team to make sure that all the needs for the children are catered for. So you might have an activity on offer in our forest school. I'll explain how we do it. So in our forest school, we do have a building, a lovely, cosy, sort of nurturing building that's full of interesting things for the children.
In Bursledon.
In Bursledon. And this is where they come when they first arrive. And we try to create it to be more like a home full of really interesting things and great things to do, but more based on natural things. So there are lots of little collections, just crazy collections of the things that I find in charity shops and beaches. There are shells and pebbles everywhere, log slices.
You're a forager.
I'm a forager. I'm a real forager. I always used to think it was my children that filled my bags with pebbles and stones, but it wasn't. It was me. And I realise that now, because I still do it on my own. Feathers, sea glass, you name it, we've got it all. But anyway, so this really rich indoor environment. So this is the base that we start from. So we encourage the children to come and visit and become really comfortable and get to know us. And then we take them off to the woods. Now, what we have to bear in mind is the children that come to us, some of their parents are really keen for the children to be outside, but they don't actually like being outside themselves. They don't like being muddy. They don't like being in the rain. They don't like it. So they bring them to us to make sure that they do have this experience, because they know that it's important. So when we take them out, we make sure they're properly equipped, they're wearing the right clothes, they're warm, they're cozy, or they're in the right sun gear. And we walk to our environment, and the places that we go, we don't use the same site every day. So that's a bit unusual for forest school. Normally you'd be on your own woodland, or you'd visit the same woodland every day. But we visit different areas because we do it every day. We don't do it once a week. Lots of nurseries talk about doing forest school, and they do it once a week on a Friday. And if you're not in on a Friday, that's tough. And if it's raining, we don't do it on a Friday. We're not going to do it. But we do it every day. And so we trot, we walk to our environment, and even the walking is where it begins. As soon as we cross the road, the children's shoulders sort of drop. They're not tense anymore. Sort of all the anxiety goes out of them. And inevitably we stop and talk to the grip bin, because that's what you do. And it might not be every forest school where the children talk to the grip bin, but at Buttercups we do.
What do you say to the grip bin?
And so every day we have a little, well, not every day, but we have a chat with the grip bin. So Mr. Grip Bin is this character. So he's yellow, and he's got sort of like, his lid looks like a big smiley man. So one day I was thinking for the shy children, what can I do to encourage them to start communicating? So I made myself into Mr. Grip Bin. I was like, hello, children. And Mr. Grip Bin had a little chat with the children, and the children talk back to Mr. Grip Bin when they won't talk to anybody else, because Mr. Grip Bin's a bin. And to prove that Mr. Grip Bin really is a character, my eldest grandson came to Buttercups, and when he was 8, I was picking him up from school. So he was quite cool. No, was he 8? No, he was 8. And we saw a grip bin. He went, Grandma, it's a grip bin. Let's go and talk to it, see if it knows Mr. Grip Bin. And so we did. So anyway, so we talked to the grip bin, and then we have to travel to our site. So we have to learn about dog safety and keeping together. And there were so many things, crossing roads come into it. So it sort of evolved to more than forest school. So we get to our forest school site, and we have sort of a designated spot. We cross a little stream, we go through some bushes, we climb a hill, and our site is at the top, and there's big slopes, and there's climbing trees, and we set up hammocks, and sometimes we'll put up some ropes for the children to play on. We'll string ropes down the hill so they can climb up. We might have some mallets and some tent pegs. We might
slidey hill.
Yeah, slidey hills. There are so many things that we can do. We might be digging, we might be mark making with sticks, but gradually the children get introduced to all the things that they can do, and we will take on board anything else that they think about. So over the years, it's become richer and richer because there are so many more things that they can do now. So at the moment, the children are really into excavating the soil and seeing what they can find. And we found beautiful, beautiful old glass bottles. We found all sorts of things. One of them found a bullet yesterday.
That's a bit alarming.
I know, so we had to take that away. I probably won't know. I won't tell you about this time we found a human bone. No, I'm probably go there. Well, should I?
Yeah. I mean, you already have.
Okay. So once we were excavating on a lovely sandy bank, the slidey hill, these, the slidey hill, we called it. Anyway, so one of the children went, look what I found. And I turned around, and they were holding a long bone. And I looked at it and thought, oh no.
A leg.
It was a femur. And I thought, oh my goodness, I haven't learned about what to do in this situation. So I thought, okay, we're not going to swallow this. I was looking at the other grown-ups thinking, oh my God, it's a bone. Is there a whole skeleton under there? Anyway, so we took the bone and we sort of put it down. And I thought, I think perhaps maybe I should ring the authorities and we'll just find out what you do in this situation. So we rang the police, and they said that they would send somebody out, and, could we be in contact and everything. So it was all fine. Anyway, the next day, there we were playing on the sandy hill again, thinking, should we dig a bit more, see if we can find any more bones? But we didn't. We thought we'd better behave. And a police officer came along, and it was a great experience because the children were really excited because it was a policeman.
Yeah.
And he took the bone away, and they decided we were quite near a cemetery, so there'd been some subsidence, and the bone had sort of come down from an old grave. And that they got in touch with the church, and the church was going to reinter the bone. They were going to have a little service.
Put it back.
Yeah. And actually, yes. So then we decided that maybe we'd been in that area for too long. We'd been eroding the soil too much. So we moved to a different area just to be on the safe side. But so forest school is child-led. It's in the outdoors. It doesn't matter where it is. It can be in a park, it can be in a field, it can be in a forest, it can be on a beach. It really doesn't matter. And they call it beach school, but it's forest school at its heart, even if it's on a beach.
Oh, I didn't realise it could be anywhere. So
Yeah.
outside.
Outside, you could do it. You could do it up on the common. You could do it anyway. You could do it at a riverside park. You just have to have the imagination. Yesterday, we walked into a meadow, and our sort of plan was to go and see what the big noise was that we'd heard, and that was tree surgeons. So we watched them for a little bit, and we were planning to go and see if the chickens had laid any eggs at the one of the houses that have hens in their garden. But there was a big pile of logs and branches and bark, and and the children, we just stopped there for probably an hour and a half, where they were exploring and playing and sort of investigating and working out what they could do. We turned around at one point, and one of the children had got a log sort of stump, and they'd put it on top of another one, and they were perching on the top.
Like vulture.
Yeah, perching on the top, and it looked a bit precarious, but if she'd have fallen off, she would have just landed on the grass, so it wasn't, the end of the world. I mean, that's one of the things that we really promote, that children are in a safe environment and are able to explore risk. Because so often now in their daily life, they're protected from all the risks. The adults manage their situation, but in our forest school, we let them climb the trees. And there is a limit to how high we'll let them go, but we'll let them explore. And I've never known a child that's reached the limit that we set. And it's a bit like getting down like slidey hills and things like that. I just say to them, go down however you want to do. And one of our children once said that they'd been to Tennyson Down, and they climbed right to the top, and they said, "Oh, well, Mummy, at Buttercups we go down how we want, and I've decided I'm going to roll down Tennyson Down instead of walking."
It's a great way to travel.
Yes. So that's our forest school, and we spend probably 2 to 3 hours outside each day. It does depend on the weather. So if it's really, really bitterly cold, and the children are getting chilled, we're not going to keep them out doggedly for 3 hours. We will take them back and get them warm. And if it turns out that everybody gets absolutely saturated, it's a bit of a duty to go back and get them dry. And, if there are really high winds and they're falling branches and things, we will take them. We won't go into the woods, but we will go out to the field and, explore the wind that way, but in a safe environment.
Yeah. And all of the children, when they come, have their own, when they start at Buttercups, they have their own waterproofs and wellies and stuff.
Yeah, we make sure that they all have the proper Swedish outdoor wear, so that they're all properly protected, and we send out detailed information about what layers they need to wear, and we'll remind parents at different times of the year, it's time for thermals now, and, it's sun cream time, sun hat time, we need a well-fitting hat with a tie under their chin so that it doesn't fall off, because we run a lot of the time,
Yeah. I think it's a really good way for you to get embedded in where you live and your surrounding and environment at a young age as well, isn't it? Because so often, and like you said, especially now, children are, depending on what age they are, they're in their pushchairs with their tablet, or they're at home in a fenced off garden and things like that, which I understand safety and the need to be able to see what your children are doing, but also it seems like it's not until you go to school and you go to a certain year and certain age of school where you're allowed to walk to school on your own with your friends and things like that. And that's kind of your first taste of being out in the world and being able to navigate it yourself. But to something like a forest school.
Absolutely. I think there's something in forest school called the ripple effect. And it's so interesting to see. So the children come to us, and the parents are really keen for them to come and spend time outdoors. And we do get the parents to come out with us and visit the woods, so they've got an idea of what we do. And we send them a daily blog with photographs, so they can see what we're doing. But the ripple effect is where the children start to take the parents on the walks into the woods where we go. And show them the things that we do and, just all sorts of things. So one of our children once took his parents to the woods, and he got his leaf compass, which guided them all. But he took them from Buttercups, walked them all round through Bursledon, down all the little pathways to the bush and the stream, got into the woods, guided them all around the woods with his leaf compass, which he always liked to carry. But they do it all the time, and some of our parents will say, "Where are the cows in Bursledon?" I'm like, "Well, they're in the meadow, of course." And the children know they're in the meadow, and they will be in the meadow for a certain amount of time, and then they'll go back to the farm. And the parents are like, "But I've never seen cows in Bursledon before." I know, you haven't been looking properly. But because we use we try to stay off main roads, so we use lots of little back pathways, but the children know them all. So the children take their parents, if their parents are up for it, and they show them our special places. And sometimes you think, "Why are you taking them to our woods?" And they even we keep boxes sometimes in the woods with some of our equipment that isn't too precious.
Yeah.
And they even have a look in our boxes. I'm a bit like, But yes, it's a wonderful thing. Grandparents, parents, siblings. And I think because they grow to so love being outdoors that it's infectious. So the parents think, "I can see this is doing them lots of good." So they end up spending more time outdoors. So it's, it spreads through the family and the wider community. And, I forgot that we get to know the community around where we live.
I know.
And we're doing this in a safe way because they're with adults, and we obviously tell the children they can't talk to people they don't know if they're on their own. Obviously, they won't be on their own, but only when a grown-up is with them. So we've got all these people that we know. We've got an old lady that came out to talk to us one day, and we probably visit her a couple of times, 3 times a month. And apparently we light up her life because she's 90 now, and with us visiting gives her a sort of a purpose. She comes out with a little bucket. She's got something interesting to show us. And we've got so many people that we know. We know the postman, we know the bin men, we know the people along the route that we walk, and they put things in the windows for us to look at. And it's just, I think for a lot of people, we sing a lot as well. So when we're walking, we quite often sing. And the people say, "Oh, you're the people that sing." And, we've got all these little children in their waterproof outfits and their bright coloured wellies.
Oh, that's so cute as well.
And we do sing lots of lovely songs. So, and some of them are quite chanty, and you taught us one of them, and the people in the local area just enjoy us. So
it kind of goes back to that thing of what is it? It takes a village to raise a child, doesn't it? But working in both ways, because you're becoming part of the community, and like you said, with older people as well, that social aspect, having a different generation around and just things going on where you live is really
well, because we're based in the Bursledon Village Hall, there are lots of things going on in the hall upstairs, and it's a bit like there's the line dancing ladies. They were up there today. We call them the dancing elephants because they dance on our floor and it's really loud. But we stop and talk to them. Sometimes we go up and have a little watch, see what they're doing. And it's just a really nice interaction. When we were rehearsing for our Christmas singing up in the hall, we needed to go up on the stage, but they were doing their line dancing, and we said, "Oh, we'll come back later." They said, "No, come and sing." So they were our audience. We've had community tea parties where we invite the community in just to say thank you and, have a nice chat. And we get the parents to bake cakes and things. So it's all very wholesome, but it really is, it's real. It's not trite. And once a year we visit the old people's home. We see these people all the time because we're out. And if we were just in our indoor environment, in our garden, we'd see almost no one, probably. Because it's quite a quiet place.
Yeah. And people like the school up the road from here, it's all fenced off and you can't see inside, and just that it almost becomes a barrier, doesn't it? In the same way that a tablet screen or something does, just allowing children to socialize and build that confidence.
Yeah.
That's another thing, isn't it? It's safety, but also being confident in knowing you know the way to get to this place, or this person's a safe person to talk to.
Yeah. And I think so many of them, even the children that come to us and they do spend so much time outside, they do talk so much about screens and tablets. I always say, "Oh, tablet, what do you put it in your mouth?" And they all give me say, "What are you talking about, woman?" But they do talk about their screen time,
Yeah.
and it is alarming. But their behaviour, I mean, from what visitors say to us, their behaviour is, well, it is exceptionally good. But I don't think it's rocket science. I did it with my children. You know this. In the morning, you go out and you do something active. You're going to be outside, and then you have a picnic where you are, or you come home for lunch. And then if it was my children, I had to go out again because they made me. But at Buttercups, we go out and we come back, we all have lunch together. We sit properly at the table. We have chats. The grown-ups sit with the children and we're all eating together. And we talk about what happened, what's going to happen next. Then we have quiet time, which is resting time, where we read them stories, give them little blankets and a cushion so they can all lie down and snuggle up. And then, miraculously, after lunch, they've run, they've used their big muscles, they've shouted, they've done all the things they want to do outside. They've had their lunch, a nice wholesome lunch, because we're quite strict about rubbish food. And then they've had a rest. And then they get to choose what they want to do, but they're calm because they've done what they need to do, which is to be outside, which is where Forest School begins. It's that being outside, the outdoor experience, feeling the seasons, watching things change, and they notice everything. They're like today we found a one single solitary snowdrop. You couldn't have seen more excited children. Yesterday we found a dead fox. Wow. They were just intrigued what had happened to the fox. Well, it might have been the owl that came along and stabbed the fox with its beak. And that's what killed it. And that's why it's lying there, because we've just looked at the owl pot. And you just think, but unless you're outside, you're not going to see these things. And you learn about death in a really real way, because you see the squashed hedgehog and you realise that, if you get hit by a car, it's pretty serious.
Yeah, and it's the natural process of life, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've had other foxes, and one of them that I remember really well was the stinky fox, because it had obviously died on one of the lanes and crawled into one of these little sort of pathways behind the houses, and it started decaying. So every day we went past it, it got a bit smellier. So it was just christened the stinky fox. But very upsettingly, that's not really a word, but something stole the skeleton, because we were really looking forward to when it had really died and we could
Collect the bone.
Yeah, but we didn't because somebody else took them.
Do you ever see examples, because it made me think while you're talking, of neurodiversity in young children and parents bringing children to Forest School for that reason, to help them with attention and being outside and things. But I've only seen examples and heard of it in children when they're in primary school and secondary school. But do you see it at Buttercup's age? What's it, 3 to
2 to 5.
2 to 5?
We never advertise at Buttercups because people find us, and the parents that find us generally realise what their children need. And we keep in touch with the children as they grow older as well and invite them to come back. And a lot of them, many of them, are neurodiverse, but their parents have sort of picked up on it already and realise that their comfortable space is outside. And they need to spend time outside to thrive. So yes, absolutely. But when they're at Buttercups, neurodiversity is they are who they are, and there are no issues with anything. A child might be very active, but they're in the right place. A child might
Hello,
have
I'm so
communication
sorry to
problems,
interrupt your
but
listening. If you're
actually
enjoying this
spending
episode,
time
I just want to give you a
outdoors
quick reminder that
promotes
if you're listening on
communication,
Spotify on
because
your
you don't feel
phone,
such
you
pressure
can
when you're
leave
not
a
within
quick
4 walls
review.
in a
Just
room.
go to
You've got
the
more
artwork below
space.
the show. You'll
And they
see
say
a
they say
button.
you've got
I'd really
more.
appreciate
There
it.
are hundreds of sticks, but I have seen children fight over sticks because there's always a special stick. But even those children that do have behavioural issues, 99% of the time they absolutely thrive. There are occasions where children's behaviour is such that we cannot keep them safe, and it's been a 1%. But generally, yeah, children thrive, but the neurodiversity is picked up later. It's not that we're not aware of it, but it's never an issue when they're with us.
So it's like once they're in that classroom, in the four
Yeah.
walls and the
Yeah.
structure of
Yeah,
sitting still in the
exactly.
classroom.
That's when they can't cope,
Yeah.
and they start masking, or they start acting out, or they just can't.
What's masking?
Masking is where, especially girls will do it, is they'll do anything to fit in. So they'll do what everybody else is doing, so that even though they're inside, they might be freaking out completely, but they'll make, because it's not just girls that do it, but they'll make themselves conform just so that they can fit in.
God,
Which is
so
really
sad.
which is really stressful for them. So quite often, if children are masking, especially at school, they'll be they'll do everything all day that's asked of them, and they'll go home and they'll have a complete meltdown. And for their parents, that's really difficult. But for children at Buttercups, I know for sure that some of our children have been diagnosed as autistic, and they've been diagnosed with ADHD. But in our environment, because it's small, there's a high ratio of adults to children. They're getting the time and the attention they need. They get the space that they need. They get the resources that, there's everything's there for them, and they don't have to fight for it. They don't have to, I don't know. They're nurtured and they're celebrated, rather than seen as something that might be a problem. I don't know. Don't know if that's okay, right on thing to say. But yes, I always say the children at Buttercups are always interesting. Always. They're quirky and they're interesting, and they're just, they've got their own fascinations and their own ways.
I've seen that on social media recently, though. There's a thing, and there's a whole thing with parents filming their children, and that's a separate thing. But it's children who, when they're at home, feel like they can be their weirdest, most wonderful self, and when they express that and allow you to see that, that's when they feel safe. And children who don't feel safe are the ones, like you say, with the masking, are the ones who kind of are being good all the time and are on high alert and things like that, and they're not expressing that side that makes us all different, that makes us unique.
Yeah, it was like at Christmas. We did some Christmas singing on the stage in the village hall, and it's all really small and short. And the children, it's not a show. We just do some of our singing, and the parents come and they watch and they clap. And we've practiced, and the children are really excited. And one of the children, I said if everybody just wears something white, we all look sort of angelic and beautiful. And I said to one of the children, "Oh, do you want to wear your white top?" And he went, "No." And I went, "Do you want to wear your Pokemon top?" And he went, "Yeah." I think it's things like that they don't have to wear. There's no uniform. They wear whatever they want, and it's comfortable. And I think that's sometimes with school, your personality almost is shown through your clothes and your hair and everything else. But you're put into that box straight away, and you've got to wear these scratchy clothes that you don't really like. And if you've got issues, sensory issues,
Yeah, that's true.
It must be so difficult.
Yeah, taking labels out of things and the seams.
The socks,
And
the shoes, and the scratchy labels. Just the the fabrics that the clothes are made from. If you're used to wearing your lovely baggy soft cotton, yoga sort of pants things all your life, and then you've got to go to school and wear nylon trousers.
Yeah, I remember that when I was traveling for a few months when I was away and the weather was warm, so I was wearing sandals all the time. I don't think I've ever been a fussy shoe person. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you haven't. You haven't. No, it's your sister.
I remember coming back and it got too cold to wear my sandals and I had to put socks on for starters.
Yeah.
And then I had to put closed shoes on. And I've never experienced that feeling of feeling trapped in your feet. I was just like, I can't move my toes. I can't wiggle.
I get that every year after the summer. And when you have to go back to wearing warmer clothes and you put your shorts away, and I think, oh, but my legs feel squashed in my trousers. And then you have to put boots on instead of flip-flops or whatever you're wearing, sandals. And you just think, no, my toes, they're cramped and I can't stretch them and it just feels awful. But yeah, so there are so many things, I think, when they do go to school. Noise issues as well. That's the other thing with us. We have lots of soft things so that it absorbs sound, and we don't have too many children. We don't use loud voices. So those children that have sensory problems, you'll see them there, just put their hands over their ears. And I have seen it when we've had bigger groups, but when we've got a small group, like 12 children, you don't see it at all because they're not too, occasionally you get one that screams or yells or something. But generally, you don't see those issues that are going to come up in the future, and they've got to wear ear defenders and have twiddly things to use in their hands because the activities that we do are physical and they're based on what the children are interested in. You don't have to provide something to distract them because they're actually interested in doing what's going on. And if they don't want to do it, they don't have to. It's not.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Where do you think this whole, because the more that you talk about it and you're so passionate about it, but it's not just a preschool, is it? It's like a whole lifestyle you've built around this idea of reconnecting with not only nature in the sense of trees and stuff, but also I feel like it's your natural self as well, like not blocking this thing that makes you. But where, if you're happy to talk about it, where do you think that comes from?
I think, wow, this is the funny thing. When you think about what's your happy place, and I think about spending time outside. And I know that if I don't spend time outside and I stay indoors all day, well, I never do it. If I don't go outside for any length of time, I just begin to feel a bit down and, I don't know, cross. So, and I think that came from spending lots of time outside when I was a child. So I think if you spend time outside as a child, you almost crave it. You need to go out and breathe the air and see the sights and feel the ground and, I don't know, dig and plant things and collect things and, all of those things. And I think I came to the realisation of what I needed to do, having quite an important role in running 2 settings. And I just realised that I was managing this lovely team of staff and I was working with the children a little bit, but actually we were just stuck in this building and it began to feel I felt a bit confined, and I just thought, I don't want to do this anymore. So I stopped. And I was quite depressed, I think, or anxious, one of the two. Anyway, I stopped and I rested and I thought, what do I really, really want to do? And I thought I want to do something where I'm outside. And I'd often thought about being a gardener or, anything to do with being outside. But then I thought I could channel my love of working with children with being outside and introducing children to different things. One, to getting dirty. I mean, the amount of children that come to us that can't even bear to put their hands on soil. I thought that if I could open a forest school, that would be really good. And my partner, my husband, said, well, why don't you then? I went, oh, I can't do that. That's far too much of a big thing. And he said, well, why? And he said, you've got all the skills to do it. And I thought, yeah. So I think it's another person having belief in you, realising that what you're doing isn't making you happy and changing it. So that's what I did. I just thought, yeah, actually, I can do this and I'm going to do it. And I did. And it was really fast. And it happened it happened really quickly, and it wasn't difficult because I was so passionate about doing it. I made it happen. And I think that's, if you are passionate about things, you make them happen, like your podcast. You just think, do you know what? I know it's scary, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. I was saying that to a friend not so long ago, actually, just that it's almost like you need to get to this tipping point where the pain of not doing the thing that you want to do is worse than the fear of what might happen on the other side of it. Like, oh, what if it doesn't go the way I wanted it to, or people don't like it, or whatever. All of that is less important than not following your own
Absolutely.
guidance.
It's a bit like when we first started, we had 2 children, 3. And I was thinking, oh my God, it's so going to work. Because obviously I had to employ staff, and I did some training, and it was expensive in investing in equipment and And I was thinking, oh my Lord. But I think you've got to have faith that your idea is a good idea. And we just carried on going and carried on doing, putting our heart and soul into it the best that we could. And it worked. My God, it worked. And we're still doing it. And we still have parents seeking us out. And I love the fact that they come into our indoor environment, they walk in and they go, they do that. They breathe out and they say, this is what I was looking for. I didn't know it, but this is what I was looking for. And then with that combined with all the outdoor stuff, which is, it's a package which they think, oh my Lord, I wasn't expecting to find this. And people say, well, it can't be a viable business, but it is a viable business. We don't make pots of money, but it's providing something good. It's providing a really lovely working place for my staff and my team, and it's a lovely nurturing place for the children. It's a lovely place for the parents because they make friends and they know that their children are really having the best possible experience. So,
do you think there are elements for people who might be listening whose children are already in primary or secondary school? Are there elements of what you do that they can bring in to raising their children, even if they didn't start in a forest school, like at the weekends, for instance?
Absolutely.
Or routine things before and after school?
Absolutely. Get them out it doesn't have to be the woods, but get them out, and don't just take them to the park. Take them for a walk through the woods. Let them scramble up and down the hills, walk in the streams, get muddy, climb on the fallen trees, slide off, just let them be children and let them explore. Because I think if you go out and you think, okay, we're going to spend a few hours outside, and if you get to a point where the children are really interested in something, in this stream or this hill or whatever, just stay and let them explore and explore fully, because it extends their concentration span. Children's concentration spans are dropping all the time because they're spending so much time on screens. They can't even watch a whole film these days. My children could always watch Disney, but I think that if you give them that concentration in a natural concentration period in a natural place. And in the summer, just go anywhere. You can walk up the road to the common. You don't have to get in a car. You don't have to get on a train. Just go to your local sort of green area. Go down to the river. Just go anywhere, but and sit and be with them and be interested in what they're finding. Sometimes just leave them to get on with it and just be present and be available for them so that they can check in with you, be interested, be a co-explorer with them, find out about things, and put those, keep the screens to a minimum. You might want to find out about something that you've seen, but yeah, just let them be outside and experience the weather and the seasons. Get them some decent wellies and waterproofs and gloves so that you can go out in all weathers. I would say dogs and children need a walk every day. I had to buy a dog when my children didn't want to go for walks anymore. No. But I think it's so important.
Yeah, I think that's true. How do you think creativity in your team impacts the kind of service that you offer?
Okay, wow. My job specification's a bit different from anybody else's, so I should have brought one with me so I could read it to you. But it's things like most job specifications will tell you what you've got to do, and you've got to keep a key person, you've got to keep records, and and we do have all that. But mine will say, we'll be ready to dance in any situation. We'll be ready to sing wherever we are.
Willing to wear stripes and shorts every day of the week.
And we'll be willing to just to be childish and childlike with the children, explore with them, just be there, just, I don't know, model for them. You've got to model the joy before the children will feel the joy. I had a little girl once that came from South Africa, and we got to our slidey hill, and she just looked at me and she said, "So, what do you want me to do now?" And I just thought, oh, okay. I said, well, how about watching what the other children are doing? I can see they're having a good time. They're laughing and smiling, and you have a go. And she was, she'd obviously been to nurseries where they told her exactly what to do, where she was going, what she was doing, how she was doing it, and she wasn't able to play.
Yeah, express herself.
Yeah. And so it took a couple of weeks, but she was fine after that. But it's weeks, it wouldn't take long at all. But I think you just have to expose children to outdoors to make them love it. And it's a bit like I was walking along with my grandchildren a couple of weeks ago, and the almost 2-year-old probably walked 5 miles.
God, that's quite a lot.
And ran, and it wouldn't be carried or anything. And the 7-year-old was just like, okay, we're walking on this path, but I just want to go down there, and can we go up there and round there? And didn't want to stay on the road most travelled, wanted to explore.
Yeah.
And I was a bit like, yeah, come on, we can go down this way. And the grumpy 10-year-old who'd had to leave his phone at home was something had happened. His phone had run out of battery. Something had happened, was really grumpy, stomping along. But after we'd been out for probably 2 hours, his cheeks were rosy. He was running around in his socks, not as wellies, because, and were absolutely full of joy. But this was just before Christmas holidays, 2024, Victoria Country Park, and I thought it's going to be packed with families and children because it was Christmas holidays.
Yeah.
And there were probably 4 people there, 4 sets of families in the middle of the day. It wasn't sunny, admittedly, but it wasn't raining.
Yeah.
And there was nobody there. It was empty. And it was just heartbreaking. We went to the cafe and had hot chocolate. This wasn't for us, but it was nice.
Yeah.
Hot chocolate and, had a lovely, lovely time. But I said, we won't park in that car park. We'll park further away and walk in because I know how busy it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I think they were at home or shopping.
Yeah, I kind of remember that at Christmas on the Common as well, actually. I remember it being a nice day. I can't remember exactly which day it was, but I thought there would be loads of people, and there were a few people,
but hardly any.
No, not as many as you'd think, given that it's in the middle of Southampton and it's absolutely massive. There's more than enough space for everyone to be.
Yeah.
You don't have to book a spot.
No, and I just think knowing how important it is, and especially when it's winter, and if you don't want to go out in the rain, make the most of it when it's not raining. But yeah, hey ho.
This is a question I have actually. Do you see a difference in the way children with younger parents behave and interact versus children with slightly older parents? And to preface this, my dad was 40 when I was born.
Yeah.
So I don't say this with any, and my sister had children very young, so I don't say this with any agenda.
Yeah, or preconception.
Yeah.
I think that our parents, we've got much younger parents and we've got quite old parents. And I think that parenting styles are so personal, aren't they? That I don't know, I see those people becoming friends. So
Through their children.
And forming relationships that you might not have thought were, at the everyday sort of norm for relationships. You get much older parents with making friends with much younger parents. But I think because they have a lot in common because they've sought out something that they want for their children, this outdoor environment. So they've got that bit sort of base together.
Yeah.
And from everything else flourishes from that, I think. And yeah, so I think parenting styles change, but I think people are more on board with, I don't know, children, the value of outdoor play and exploration. And I think as an older person now, I think that when I was a child, children were much freer. We all played outside. And in some places, children play outside still, but it's almost frowned upon. So I think it's quite hard for parents to let their children go and explore. And
yeah, and COVID didn't help that either, did it? Because nobody could go outside, or there were limited amounts of time and certain times that you could go outside and do things.
I don't know if I'm answering that question properly, but yes, I think because they've got in common that they're seeking sort of this type of sort of early years experience for their children. They're quite like-minded, our parents, in a way that in other settings you might get a real mix.
Yeah.
And older parents, much older parents, seem to be very determined to find the very, very best, because I think they've waited for those children. They are determined to find the very best for their children, and they will go to great lengths to do it. And younger parents as well, I think some younger parents, they just know what suits their children, and they might know somebody that's already used sort of a forest school or knows of a forest school and thinks this is actually what I think my children need. And we have a real different mix of demographic of where people live. And some people might come from the local estate, some people might come from, I don't know, far away, different cities. They'll travel. So yeah, I don't know if I've answered that properly.
Yeah, definitely. There's no right answer. It's just what you think and your experience and drawing out your insights. I was going to ask you something and I forgot what it was. I'll go back to my list. I have another question on here, but I feel like you've kind of already answered it. And I was just going to say about how the world has gradually got more digital and techy, I guess. And the role that outdoor learning and play and bringing up healthy and confident, creative children.
I mean, I think the good thing it does is that you can find out about things easily, the tech, and also we can take photographs of the children when they're out, so we can share that with the parents, which is nice. There's little insights into their day. But also, what was the other thing? Yes, on social media, there's quite often if you start looking at things about outdoors and the benefits of outdoor play, and you find out all sorts of things, suggestions and things. So those are the benefits that I can see of it. Others not really for children particularly. I mean, I suppose downtime for anybody if they want to play on a tablet or whatever. But I just think that sort of stuff needs to be limited into a small box. But there needs to be a big outdoor box to counterbalance it.
Yeah, not let it take over completely.
Yeah. It's a bit like the box that you had when you were growing up, which was the telly watching box or the DVD watching box. It was a certain time of the day, didn't happen in the morning, didn't happen in the afternoon, it was late afternoon, it had its place. It was designated, and the telly didn't go on first thing in the morning. We didn't have computers, but we didn't have phones for sort of most of the time, but yeah, I tried my best.
I just remember you taking away the internet, or like if we'd done something we weren't supposed to, and our laptop disappearing, and it felt like the end of the world.
I know. Well, I think that's the problem, isn't it? It becomes
you get emotionally attached to those things.
Yeah.
I think that's when the real problems start.
And I think that also because everybody else has got them, then you can't be part of the gang. You hear about children that if they haven't got a phone, they don't know what's going on. They can't join in, and then parents have to give in and get them their phone, and then they get addicted to it, and they get sort of withdrawn, and the bullying happens. And you just think it's just a minefield. If only it could be just a nice thing that you looked at for a little while each day.
Yeah.
Or
And it goes back to that thing of doing what you really want to do and allowing yourself to do that. I think in my experience, since starting the podcast, but also since starting the podcast and allowing myself to do that, I feel like I've got more confident, and I've noticed myself recently having more things to go off and do in the real world with other people as part of a community. And I don't feel reliant on this external thing to kind of know what's going on in the world, or feel like I'm doing something even though I'm actually in physical, just sat on my sofa. But it's almost like your mind does that running around for you, so you feel like you've done something.
Yeah.
Actually, you've just been sat there.
And actually you feel a bit sick with yourself after a while, don't you? Yeah. No.
I lost that energy away.
Yeah. That inquisitiveness and that oomph to get out there, and yeah. No, I'm just not. I'm not wedded to my phone. I'm not wedded to Facebook. I don't like any of them, to be honest. And when I leave my phone behind, sometimes I think, good, really, I've done that. And I do like finding out about things, and I've really got into natural cleaning products recently, and all of that stuff. But I've actually got a book. And my books, I love it because it's really well thumbed, and I'm like, oh yes, that's on that page, and and to me I just love it. My children are scorning me, well, one of them is for sure, and everybody thinks it's funny, but actually I'm really enjoying it, making my potions.
It's a bit of a science experiment as well.
I know. Yeah. Bubble, bubble, toilet and trouble. A purple goo in my saucepan. No, but it is really interesting, and I think I have found that out. No, actually, I found it out from one of the parents at Buttercups. They mentioned it to me first. Then I got the book with the book vouchers they got us at the end of the year, and it's gone on from there. And I found out more by doing a bit of research online, which I love. Yeah. But anything else, and I just think,
I mean, it makes perfect sense with your whole thing of
yoga as well. Got into yoga.
in a sanctuary, out of sanctuary.
Yeah.
Well, sanctuary.
Yeah. No, it's true.
I'm nearly at the end of my 6, but this is a bit of a jokey question. But I was going to ask you, if you got one hall pass from Ofsted, which is the kind of overlord of children and education, what would you do differently or change within the childcare and child education kind of arena? Or even in
what I could choose, what everybody had to do.
Or it could be that, or just something that you would want to do that you're currently not technically allowed or permitted to do. Or something that you would just want everyone to have to do.
I think I never feel that I'm not permitted to do anything, because I will back up my decisions with evidence.
Yeah.
And I'll just talk to them about it. So I'm not worried about me. What I would love is to get a minibus actually, and to be able to go further afield and go on real adventures.
Oh, that would
like go off to
Three Peaks, Buttercups.
Yeah, well, yeah, something, that, but that's a lot of extra expense and it's a bit different. But that would be a holiday club or something like that.
Oh yeah, I bet parents would love that summer holiday club.
Well, yeah, but they never
dated.
Yeah, but that sort of thing. But I don't know. I'm not quite sure I've got that much energy. But the thing for all settings would be, for me, that they get those children outside more often and make it's not that the children shouldn't choose whether they want to be outside or inside, but if those adults showed joy in what they were doing outside, I think it would encourage the children to want to try it more. And I know that lots of settings have got issues with staffing and ratio, so taking the children out to parks or the common or anywhere can be an issue, but it can be done, and you can get other people in to help you, volunteers and things. But I would say make the most of your outdoor spaces and just make them really inspiring. Even if you can only be in the garden, it can be such fun, and you as a practitioner have to be completely in that zone. You have to be showing the children that you're enjoying it and that you're exploring and you're thinking about things and you're experimenting, and they will follow you. Our garden at Buttercups doesn't have anything exciting in inverted commas, but it has water, it has stones, it has sand, it has things they can push, it has things they can build with,
it's got the ingredients.
Yeah, it's got the ingredients of investigations. It's got bottles, it's got funnels, it's got tubes, recently I got them spray bottles because they love cleaning the window. It's got squeegee wipers. It's got things that they can do there. But across the road from our setting is a field, it's called a recreation ground. It's got a park, a fenced off park, which we never use. And you could just go across the road to that outdoor space and use it and explore it, and you would 2 minutes across from your setting. I would say that's a priority. Get them outside for 2 hours a day. Make it that you've got to do that. It's non-negotiable.
And take yourself outside for at least an hour.
Absolutely, yeah, no, absolutely.
I don't know whether to ask. I had a question about whether you offer any opportunities for people looking for experience to go into something like this, but you don't have to touch on that.
We do sometimes, and I have had people on work experience and things like that. My only reservation about it is, one, it takes our attention away from the children, because I obviously feel I need to give attention to these people, and two, it has to be something they really want. They're
it
really
has to be the
interested.
right person.
They have to be passionate. And also those settings that say they're doing forest school and they go out once a week, if that, I just think, you're just, no.
So that's a good thing to take away, isn't it? If you are looking at forest schools, to find out how often they actually go
because they
outside.
might be in their built environment most of the time and they might go out once a week. And is your child in on that week? Is
Sneaky.
that, yeah. And if they're not, can they access that? But when you do it every day, it's completely different. The children know, because children need a routine. Our routine is the same every day. The times might change slightly. Something might be a bit longer, something might be a bit shorter, but they know what's happening, so they are secure in the routine. So that's really important for children. And knowing that you're going to do forest school on Friday is really exciting. So unless come thunder and lightning, you wouldn't do it, and high winds because the trees might be dropping branches. But other than that, you are going. And that should be, an absolute sort of, surety. And if you can't provide that, you shouldn't call yourself forest school because you're not.
Yes.
But it was a bit like today. We went to one of our sites and we were going to go back to the meadow, but actually we got to the spot just before the meadow where there is a castle. It's not a castle, it's a mausoleum, but it's our castle. And the children were so happy playing in this environment that we ended up not going on to where we were going to go in the first place because they were having such a good time. Why we were climbing trees, jumping out of trees, playing chasing games, making dens, they were absolutely absorbed in this environment that they were in. And it was just like, don't break the magic.
Yeah.
Because we said we were going to do that, so we've got to do it. Absolutely, plans can be flexible.
Yeah, have a bit of freedom in
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah.
I have a last question.
Okay.
If you had to spend the rest of your life with one, would you choose children or adults?
Oh, children. Oh.
I thought you might say
Oh. Adults. The only
people could see your face, right?
The only time I have problems at work with grown-ups. Yeah, never. Ooh.
I get told off at work for calling adults grown-ups. They're like, you can't say that. Why not?
Yeah, no, it would definitely be children. I mean, I think even I need a break from them sometimes. They are quite full on, but I don't know. Every day is different, and every day's funny, and every day's sort of joyous. You can't be miserable when you work with children. Well, I suppose some people can, but I don't know how. I honestly don't know how.
Yeah, keeps you youthful, doesn't it? Or not even. Well, yeah, youthful.
It does,
but in the sense of not just accepting things are just there because you just got used to them. It's like when things are new to children and they haven't seen it before, they've got so many questions and they want to know how it works and why it happens and all of those things. And when we grow up and get to adult stage, it's kind of like, oh, well.
Well, I think I've read something about this the other day. Your curiosity and your ability to learn plateaus about 10? So you're, full on, you can absorb stuff and you need to get as much sort of great learning in at that point as you can.
I feel like I've still got that. I love learning, whether it's learning something at home or going off and doing something.
Yeah, so do I.
It keeps your brain
It's like my crocheting. I'm crocheting. I'm making my potions. If you're not learning something new or doing something, life would be really boring. Just sitting watching the telly, going to work, coming home.
But it's being willing to go outside of that comfort zone that you build up as well, isn't it? Because I think you don't necessarily always have that when you're a child because things are new and you haven't learned that it's not safe yet unless someone teaches you something's not safe. But when you're an adult, that kind of boundary or whatever it is already there. So then you have to overcome it again and hop back over that fence and be like, oh, actually, this is quite fun.
Yeah. What I do love about our children and in the outdoors is the way they help each other and they sort of scaffold each other's learning. So if the children that can't do something, the older children, not always the older children, the other children will help them or show them. And it's just like, it's like when your own children say something really lovely and it comes out of their mouth and you think, oh, that sounds really nice. I say that sometimes and it's come out of their mouth. I'm really, really proud.
That was my favourite thing when I came and helped you at Buttercups quite a few years ago now. But hearing the things that the children say, sometimes you're just like, oh, I think your parents probably wouldn't want to know that you just said that out loud to lots of other adults. But the rest of the time, when they say something really sweet or really insightful, really clever, and it makes you realise that they've got it from somewhere. Yeah. And it's kind of like, that's nice.
Yeah. No, I know. It's lovely.
It's like a little mirror.
Yeah, it is, for the good and the bad. And I think, you know, we've all seen it, haven't we, for different reasons.
Yeah. I had a friend on the podcast quite a while ago called Edgar, and he has a little boy, and he was saying, and this really made me laugh because I'm not a parent, but it made me laugh because he said having a child, it's like having this small person who you'll be the big person that they come to when they have a problem, but they'll also do the same if you're the one that they have a problem with because they have no one else to go to. So you have to deal with everything, even if it's about you.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
And the way that I normally round this off is how can people find out more about Buttercups? Because you've got a Facebook page, which you may or may not have forgotten about.
Yeah.
But you also have a website.
I've got a website, buttercupseyc.co.uk, which was updated a tiny bit yesterday, but I don't really like all the techie stuff. And an Instagram page, which is very out of date, but there's enough stuff on there to show you what we do. We don't need to put any more on.
Yeah, and it's private, isn't it? So you have to follow it first, I think. And then, you can see the photos.
Yeah.
Just to keep things
and
above board.
Buttercups EYC, hashtag Buttercups EYC. I'm sure it is.
So. I'll put a link to it.
But if you find our Buttercup, what's it called? Buttercupseyc.co.uk on Google, you'll find the Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, I think yours is just Buttercups EYC everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming to talk on the podcast, man.
You're very welcome. It took me some time, didn't it?
It did, but you jumped out of your comfort zone, and I feel like it's a good thing to hear about, especially on the topic of creativity. It's this very early stage of creativity and how we can nurture it and keep it going and build that confidence that I think kind of sets the foundation to be creative later. Because if you're not confident, you're not going to, in that sense of being outside with children, you're not going to follow those little pathways and all these different things because you don't know what's going to be at the end. So you just don't go down it at all.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important, and it's good to think about, even if you don't have children, and as an adult, how you can apply these things to your life and your lifestyle.
Yeah, it's having the confidence and the resilience that sometimes, you might try something, it won't work, or you might not like it, or, it might not be right. But just having the bounce back and thinking, well, I'll just try something else. Yeah, it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
So
words to live by.
Yes. Thank you.